All right, here's what we're doing today. What we have here is a 4L60, a 2003 from a 5.3 liter. This came out of the Avalanche. Pretty standard, but this was a four-wheel drive. We're going to convert it to two-wheel drive. Before I do that, however, I want to take a few minutes, open up the pan, and just make sure that this thing's worth saving. I have nothing, I don't know how the service life was on this. I don't know anything. So let's take a minute. We'll open up the pan, get a good look in there, and see what we're dealing with. I took and I bought this little jig. This is wicked cheap. It was like 30 bucks or something, and mounted it to my bench. Excuse me. Mounted it up to my bench. So you can twirl it around, put it in any position, and I just got one of these standard drip trays here to catch all the crap that's ultimately pouring out of it. Save my mess on the floor. So let's roll it upside down. And you can see it's still coming out. There we go. I don't know what just fell, but figure it out later. Okay, so let me just grab a socket here. Take the pan off. I'm gonna loosen them all up by hand first. The oil plug on this pan was shot, just stripped right out. So I got a replacement in case this thing should be savable. As I said, I just don't know where this is at. But we're about to find out. Been researching these quite a bit, and this process is pretty easy. I've never done this before. So if this is any good, we'll convert it to two-wheel drive, clean it up, paint it. If we need to go deeper, we'll make that call later. All right. Alrighty. Let's see what we got. That pen came off super easy. Okay. Well, it's not horrifying. There's a piece of leaf in there that fell in. Got some dirt that came in from the dipstick tube, but it actually looks pretty decent. Magnet's not covered with shit, so I think this will live to ride another day. Set that aside and we'll clean it later. All right. This has the deep filter in it, the deep pan. Just pop the filter off here. There's no fastener, it just literally pushes in. Oops. A little residual fluid, of course. Throw that in the pan as well. You always want to hang on to that stuff so that when you're checking your new material, you know you got the right stuff. I don't see anything too terrible going on in here. Well, I'd say this is totally savable. Fluid's a little dark, but I don't expect it's probably ever been changed, but most of them never are, although you should. It's not like the old Turbo 350 days where you could, leave the fluid in there for the life of the rig. A little different now. All right, I like this jig. This makes it super easy to work on. Okay, so let me get set up and I'll bring you back, show you how to take the bell housing off. So the bolts holding the bell housing on are what's called Torx Plus. So they got bigger vanes than a normal Torx bit. If you use a regular Torx bit in these, you're going to strip them right out. And they're a little, of course it's steel against aluminum, so they've been in there a long time, so they don't really want to come out that easy, and you wouldn't want them to. So I'm having to tap the bit in a little bit to start. And then what I learned was, you just take a little bit of heat and you heat the boss up moderately as you apply a little bit of pressure. And eventually they'll just come. And there it goes. And all you're doing is just making that boss heat up a little bit, expand the aluminum, and then the steel will loosen right up, and it comes out fairly easy. Okay, all the bolts are out. Now I'm just gonna tap it loose. Let me get my rubber mallet. Hopefully this just pops right off. Yep, not bad. Okay, we'll set this bell housing aside for cleaning and do a nice job with it off. Okay. All right, so that's off. The next step, now I've seen stuff that says I gotta take this out, the servo control, and I've seen stuff that says I don't. So I'm gonna try to not take it out to start with and see how that goes. All right, let me get my torch out of the way. Okay, let's see what's next here. All right, I flipped it back over. Now we got to dig out what's called the shift solenoid. And you got to pull this little wire clip out of this slot. That comes out. Unplug the cable. And then this solenoid should slide right out. That's all there is to it. I'm going to put the clip back on it for safekeeping. Now sometimes you'll find yourself in a situation where they put that clip on from the other side, and then you got to pull the whole throttle body off to get it out. Not fun. Okay, then we got to pull out this other solenoid here, and that is not the proper socket. Let me bring you around here so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I just pulled the two screws out of this solenoid now, and now I can lift that out of the hole because this actually goes down and engages the pump. Which we have to pull out. So you just slowly work this out. That one seems to be hardwired to the harness. No connector. Weird. Okay, we'll set that out of the way. Now, there is a definite order of battle for this that you want to do correctly, lest you ruin the transmission. Okay, shift solenoid out, torque converter. Oh yeah, we got to remove the O-ring from the input shaft. Then we'll remove the pump housing. So this little O-ring right here So we got to remove this little O-ring. And be careful. So I hope to reuse it. Hopefully. Unless it's too hard. The kit I have for this may have the replacement for this O-ring, in which case I might use it, but just want to be careful, just in case. These auto-magical transmissions, don't want to mess that up. All right, so I just dried that off. I'm going to set it aside in a safe place, which I'll lose, and then look around and bitch, and yeah, you know, situation normal. All right, so now I'm going to take the bolts out of the pump housing. Loosen them all first. Just crack them loose. Now these bolts have a little O-ring underneath the head of them. So they're special. Now, is that the last one? Check. Okay, so now the pump housing is ready to come out. So I'm going to get a way too big pry bar. And you get in here. And you push against the body very easily, and then you just wiggle this until it comes out. Okay, so now just going to gently pry up against the throttle body, the valve body. There it goes. Got it. Okay, and there it is. The pump housing. I'm going to try to clean off a spot here to set that down in a safe location. Relatively safe-ish. We'll throw in the ish. Put some paper towel down. Okay, and that should just lift right off there. There it is. Okay, there's your pump. Now the gasket came with the pump, so we're just going to leave that there, and remember it's there. Oh yeah. Take this little thing with it and put it back on the pump. Has two little holes that those pitons go into. And that sits right there. It's a very important little piece, apparently. Okay, let me bring you in here, show you what we're into. The first time I've ever done this, and so far, no surprises, knock on wood. Okay, this is going to be very hard for this camera to see. Okay, what we're looking at right there is the main drive drum. That's this bit. These are the seals that you'll hear people talk about. These are important not to mess those up, because they're kind of tricky to replace those. They're a PTFE, a Teflon, and that they don't stretch all that well. And after they do stretch, they have such a memory they don't want to go back to the right size. All right, let me slide my bucket out of the way a little bit here so I can get my feet behind me. Now down in here, there's a little pin, and that pin is holding the band clamp. And you just got to get the band clamp off the pin. And there it is. Once the band is off, then, oh, it's heavy. Make some more room for that drum. Now, that band is off from there. Well, there's two ways, right? You can slide this back and feed that up. Or we should be able to just lift this drum out. There it is. Don't drop it. Okay. All right. There. Drum is out. Let's check out our band here. Pull this out now. That actually looks in good shape. Yeah, this thing is surprising me. I was praying this didn't go the way of the 5.3, which I think I might have overreacted on in all truthfulness. After talking to a couple guys on the interwebs who saw the video, they're like, oh yeah, if that thing's set for a while, just tap the exhaust valves with your rubber mallet. They'll come into it. I'm like, oh shit. Okay, well, too late. But I will do that again and explore that option. Adam sent that in. He's like, yeah, he had one sitting in a humid environment, like New Hampshire, and had to do that same thing because he was getting leak by on the exhaust valves. I'm like, shit. It's probably all it is. So, we'll get to that. All right, just doing a little cleanup here. All right, next step. I got to get that clip ring out of there. I'll bring you back in a second to show you that. Okay, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but way down in there, right around those planetary gears, there's a little solid clip ring that goes around the shaft right there. We got to get that out. So, let's see how this goes. You need a set of expanding clip ring pliers. Hopefully, okay, you see those. Hopefully these will do the trick. See if I can get my butt in here. Oops, almost had it. planetary gears in here, as I understand it, this is reverse. I think down in below this one. But this is as far as we need to go. If we can get this clip out, we are there. And it wants to be right in front of that planetary gear, which you don't want. Okay, there we go. There we go. Got it. Okay, that's the clip we've been fighting for right there. That little yellow fella. Okay, got it. Now, according to Hoyle, one little bunk with this rigging, and the tail shaft's out. That's it. Anybody needs a 4x4 tail shaft, let me know. They'll be sitting right here in my scrap pile. In the bucket. Okay, so next step, I believe, I just want to clean up in there a little bit, just wipe it down. And let me just get cleaned up a little bit here and I'll bring you back. All right, so I rolled this back up so I can work on it a little easier, but here's my new tail shaft. This is for the two-wheel drive. I had to roll it back up because I don't have an assistant here to help me with this today. So I'm gonna work this in until it stops. And I'm gonna put that clip back on, hopefully. Fingers crossed. Kind of hoping it goes a little easier with going back in. I think it will. So the issue was that little planetary gear assembly started to slide out before the shaft was all the way over it. So that's all it was. Pretty easy fix. Just I rolled it up on its side here and shoved it in that way, and then I was able to wiggle her home. I mean, I put it back up vertical, wiggled it in, and then put it back on its side. All right, now let me see if I can get this on here without standing on my head. There it goes. And then I should there we go. Right back where it belongs. All right, excellent. Now, this is not a very big job at all. I'm only into this probably half an hour. Let's flip this back up now. The next step is not too bad. We just got to wiggle that drum back down in there. Yes, sir. And then it's got to sit down in. A little cleaning to do here first. But it's got to sit down in to the right depth. Now, if I was smart, I would have measured that depth before I pulled it apart. You know, note to self, do that next time. But I think it's fairly obvious once it goes in. So we'll give it a go. Now, I've also seen guys, yeah, this all looks really good. There's a little bit of, you can see a little bit of heat mark on the drum, but not bad. Now, one dude said, do yourself a favor. Clamp a pair of vice grips on the shaft so you can rotate it easily as you're lowering it down in. Don't go crazy. Okay, here we go. You can see we're nowhere near in the right depth yet. Oh, there's one drop. There's another drop. Not quite there yet. This has got to be below this surface, I know that. What's happening here? Oh, I see. All those clutch discs down there need to line up. Oh, Jesus. Hold on. All right, let's try this again. Carefully this time. Oh. There it goes. She's in. You can tell it makes a fairly convincing sound when it hits bottom. And it's about, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch off the bottom of that. Come on, don't do it. Don't do this to me. There it goes. Okay. Feels like it's down all the way. I won't know until I put the pump in. But let's put the band clamp back on. The band, putting the band back together. Okay, now this is gonna go down in here like so. Huh. Gotta get this side in first. There we go. Come on down there. Get down there. There, gotcha. Okay, then you slide that back over a little bit that way. And you put this down in over that pin that's always wanting to work its way out. And there we have it. Perfect. That's it. Okay. I believe everything is in the right position. My only question is it down far enough? And I believe it is. Everything feels like it engaged properly. The clutch is lined up. All right, next step is pull this gasket off. Clean up my gasket surfaces a little bit here. The nice thing about automatics is they're generally pretty clean inside, just a lot of fluid. All right, let me bring you over here so you can see what I'm doing now. Uh-oh. We've had power on and off all day. I hope it doesn't go out again. Please don't go out. Okay, so I've cleaned up the surfaces on the bottom of the pump here, including this area around the stem. Now, I'm going to use this material called assembly goo, literally. That's the name of it. Didn't make it up. I don't need much of it, but it's super viscous assembly material, pre-lube, whatever you want to call it. But it helps to hold this crazy little ring on here. All right, there's that. Now this ring goes on with the two little pitons going down through that hole, and it should stick with this assembly glue, and when I flip it upside down, it's not going to fall off. So bonus. Now, gasket. Genuine GM parts. The gasket you set in the housing so that it lines up with all the holes. That looks like it right there. Now, one of the things that I was advised to do here is make up a stud just to line the pump up on that gasket when I put it in, and I will do that in a second, but I didn't do that yet. All right, so I'm just gonna put a little assembly lube on some of these surfaces where it rides on that Teflon seal, just so that I get it in there right and shouldn't be a problem because these seals are used, but we're gonna do it anyway. Okay, just pre-lube that up a little bit. I didn't use much of that assembly goo, but I'm sure some other type of grease would have worked, but this is what I was told to do. Okay, now what? Oh, let's put some on that outside of that race too. Whoops, broke the lid. Just a thin film. Don't go too crazy with this shit. I'm sure it'll screw you up somehow. There. Okay, I'll bring you right back. I need to make a stud. A very long stud. Okay, so like I was saying, you take a stud and screw it into one of these. This is just a 5/16. It's not the right thread, but you'll catch a thread and it'll keep everything lined up, the gasket and everything, as you feed the pump in. The other thing to remember is the filter pickup is right here. So we got to make sure that that is the proper orientation. And the holes are spread out in different patterns, so I don't think you could even get it in wrong, but I'm going to take off this clip for the front seal because I'm going to replace that front seal, but I don't have it yet, so I've got to, that'll happen after it's all back together. Now, okay, as you can see, the assembly glue is holding that yellow ring on there really nice. Now I'm just going to slide it down over that stud, find that stud. There it goes. Dropped right in. Center that up a little bit on that stud. Now I want to make sure I can still spin my shaft, and I can. So I know I have my drive drum at the right depth. Okay, next thing I'm going to do, pull that stud out. Start working these bolts back in. Check the O-rings on them to make sure they're all still in good shape. You can replace those if you need to. A lot of the kits I saw had those in it, but then most everybody said you didn't really need to replace them. So, you know, just gonna go with it. No, didn't wipe that one. All right, there you go. Now I'm just gonna draw those in a little bit and then torque them. Okay, before I torque those in, just going to take my vice grips and make sure I can still spin the shaft. And everything still spins super free. So we're good. Success. Looks like there's a little Phillips head in here. You could conceivably turn that with something else if you wanted to. Anyway, let me finish tightening these down. And then I'll grab a torque wrench. Probably already over torqued them, but we'll see. 18 foot-pounds, like everything else in this motor. Transmission combo. Yeah, guess what? Torque wrench is still set to that. Imagine that. Yeah, that was over tight. I didn't bother to put never sees on these because Well, it's an automatic transmission. All this shit's bathing in fluid, so. Click. 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 Thought I might have missed that one. Okay, there's that. Pump's back on. Woohoo! Okay, now we're gonna flip it up, put the bottom back together. Okay, all right, now. Oh boy. Missing a screw. Awesome. Okay, so the first thing I got to do is work this solenoid back down into its proper location. And put its screws in. So far, this has not been too bad. Now the little reverse switch, gear indicator switch, well, it was a mess. And I broke it taking it off. So I've ordered a new one of those. They're only like 30 bucks, so it's not end of the world. It's all rusty anyway, so it's best just get it out of there. But my shifter shaft here also needs to come out because I got to put that on the wire wheel if I'm going to be able to reuse that. And I want to replace that seal anyway. Okay. Tighten those up. Those are supposed to be like 180 inch-pounds. My calibrated elbow tells me we're right there. Now, take my clip off. This is called, I believe, the shift solenoid, but I'm not 100% sure about that. And you just slowly work this back in until everything's happy. Oh, I didn't even have to unplug that. Neat. Then put the clip on. Done. And clean my fingerprints off it. All right. All right, so the next step is the tail housing. First thing you need, and some have this, some don't. And this is the, they call it the cup. But what this does is it goes over here and it seals the yoke on the outside. So if you have a vented yoke or a leaky yoke like I had on the Firebird, it takes care of that for you. And it seals it to the outside of the yoke, and then the teeth are on the inside. Okay, so you just tap this on. There's an O-ring inside this lip. You got to be careful because some of them don't come with that. Just make sure that's somewhat centered on there. Yeah, it looks really good, actually. Okay, now, Put a little assembly lube right on this surface where the O-ring goes. That'll keep you from pinching it or cutting it when you're sliding it in. Now, I bought this on Amazon, believe it or not. Has the O-ring ready to go. Just make sure it's seated up in there good. Make sure up is up, up is down. And you just slip this. It came with a kit, as a kit, with the tail shaft. All right, let me see if I can find some bolts here that'll do the trick. Okay, so once again, we have steel threads going into an aluminum bore, aluminum hole, so I'm gonna just hit them with some anti-seize copper, my weapon of choice. I'll look and see if ARP makes a bolt set for this, but I haven't seen one. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So this is the later model, 4L60, 2003 Silverados, Avalanche, Escalades, all those. And of course, the flavor I had was 4-wheel drive, so the whole mission here was to convert it to 2 and use what I had. You know, because this is a budget build. Stay on budget. Whoops, wrong way, Hermit. There we go. And that's not the right socket. Just keep an eye in the gap, making sure you're not doing anything weird to that O-ring. Okay, now I'm going to torque those. It goes at 36 foot-pounds if I recall. Come on. Now I'm not going to put the speed sensor in it until I get the whole thing cleaned up and painted. There we go. Okay. So there we go. We are now a 2-wheel drive unit. Excellent. Looks good. All right, so basically now I got a lot of cleaning to do. I'm gonna tape up the ends, tape up everything that can get any crap in it. After I get the oil pan cleaned up, put back on, shift shaft cleaned up, I'm gonna seal replacing the shift shaft. Then I will tape everything up, flip this over, clean it up good, and paint it. And it should be ready to go. But that's a segment for a different day. But yeah, no, this went, you know, the power of YouTube University was fairly painless. But, you know, it helps when you see a couple other guys do it. And, you know, everybody has a different way of doing it. Interestingly enough, both guys I watched didn't have this little clamp jig affair, which I think makes it 10 times easier. And if you're doing any number of these, I don't know why you wouldn't have it, but Anyway, and it makes cleanup a breeze. All right, so I'm going to flip this back over, and or actually I might leave it like that because I got to pull the pan back off and pull that shift shaft out. But that's a story for another day. So thanks for watching. All right, so I got this painted and all put back together. I replaced the front seal, replaced the torque converter. This motor is, with the cam and everything, recommends a 2500 stall torque converter. The old one I think is like 16 to 1800. So I had to replace that. I painted it all up, cleaned it up as best I could. I didn't bore you with all those details. It was just a lot of mundane work. So, and I put AN fittings on for my transmission lines. So next step, I'm gonna take this down, put it back on a dolly, and mate it up to the motor soon here, and get ready to slip it into the chassis. It's a little trick I do. I take a wrench and just put a nut bolt, and that makes sure that when I'm moving this around, that torque converter doesn't come out. And I'm about 1 1/8 inches deep, which is perfect. You want about 1 inch to 1 3/16 inches. So I'm right there. That's about it. I did mask off the tag and left the tag on there. I used the Eastwood chassis black paint, thinking, you know, it's rugged. This stuff is really hard, and it's a 2K product in a spray bomb. So I just cleaned it all up, wiped it all down, sandblasted parts that could be sandblasted, and then painted everything, primed everything. I did prime it with a rust encapsulator just because I didn't know if any of that oxidation on the aluminum that would help that in the long run or not. I do put the heat shields back on them. I'm gonna have a pipe coming down through right about here with a flex joint, so I didn't wanna let that heat everything up over there. So yeah, that's about it. Everything's back together. I'm gonna wrap this video up here. Hope you enjoyed it. I did quite a bit of research to do this job. It only took me less than like an hour and a half, 2 hours, even with the filming, to change it over from 4-wheel drive to 2-wheel drive. So that part was fairly straightforward if you know how to do it. Cleaning it and everything else, I probably have 4 or 5 hours in, but you know, that is what it is. So anyway, this thing is now ready to go back in. I did pre-fill the torque converter with a quart of transmission fluid. I am using a synthetic transmission fluid because it's what I have. It's a Mobil 1 transmission fluid. It's supposed to be really good. But, you know, it's an older transmission, so I'm fine with that. All right, so I'm gonna take the crane, set this back onto the dolly so I can roll it around. I'm gonna cover the dolly with some fabric of some sort so I don't scratch the pan all up. But yeah, that's about it. And then next step will be to mount this thing in the car, get the motor and tranny paired up or married up, and then slip it in, put it on the chassis. After that's accomplished, I can measure for my drive shaft to get that on order. Then I'm doing exhaust. Back to exhaust work. Seems like I just did this on the Firebird, but yeah, this is I think this transmission is gonna work just fine. Again, I'm not building a drag car. I'm not building anything like that. This is a grocery getter, but I'm trying to build something that even my wife can drive. So, you know, I'm not trying to have stupid horsepower, but at the same time, when you punch it down, you want it to go where you want it to go, right? So anyway, hope you enjoyed this. I will catch you on the next one.